Yeah, so to get started, can you share with us a little bit, just your thoughts or analysis of all this stuff that happened on Capitol Hill yesterday? The protests leading to violence, etc. Go for it.
I think the sentiments I have to share are probably what I've heard from many progressives and leftists is just that what Trump did obviously is abhorrent and deranged, and these conspiracy theories that he was spreading were ridiculous. And this response was not surprising. I mean, he's got a base of support that is fueled by this kind of distrust of any authority, and it's been channeled into white supremacy, nationalism, chauvinism, aggression, like male aggression, especially. And so something like this was not a surprise. I think there are some takeaways from it in terms of what it says about this country. It's a failed state that doesn't provide the basics for its people and hasn't properly dealt with its legacy of white supremacy, and continues to export its dysfunction around the world with costly regime change operations that seek to topple other people's governments. And what happened yesterday was like a tiny fraction of what we inflict on other countries around the world. And it comes home in the sense that the soldiers who are sent off to do wars um, and they bring back with them, I think, the trauma of having to carry out atrocities and occupy and oppress other people. And I think that factors into some of Trump's base of support when it comes to veterans. Um, when you're a failed state that doesn't provide for its people, people's anguish is going to be channeled into different things. So on the Republican side, Trump has channeled it into hatred of immigrants, and that preceded him, especially with the Tea Party, and anything that can distract from the real causes of problems and dysfunctions in this country, which is concentrated power. The Democrats also serve concentrated power, although with some more variations. So they throw average people some bones, and they're obviously much less hateful and extreme than the Republicans are. But they've done something similar for the last 4 years, and this will get into what we're talking about tonight, RussiaGate, which is that they've blamed everything on Russia. Essentially, they've said the cause of Trump is this intervention by a foreign power to install him in the White House. And once we uncover his hidden collusion with Russia, and once we get rid of him, then all of our problems will go away. That's essentially the message of the Democrats. So, in the absence of any strong political force that is organized around meeting people's basic needs, you're going to have displays like this. And I can't help but think about what it must be like for someone in the global south to witness what happened yesterday because, as I said, I mean, this was just a fraction of what we inflict elsewhere. Thinking of, kids in Venezuela who can't access food and medicine because our government is trying to overthrow theirs. The, violent protest that we supported there and the literal military coup that we supported there. I mean, that's an actual attempted coup. And the things that we've carried out in other countries, like in Haiti, are actual coups. And that's why when George Bush weighed in yesterday condemning all this, I mean, even putting aside the Iraq War, I mean, he pulled off a literal coup inside of Haiti. And I went to Haiti in 2004 and I saw the terror on people's faces. And that's an actual coup. And when Democrats call this a coup, it's disingenuous because a mob attacking a capital is horrible, but it's not a coup. And meanwhile, a lot of these people have supported literal coups and regime change operations around the world. So, it's if there's a positive that could come of it, which I don't think there will be, at least from those in power, but for the rest of us, we could reflect on, the fear that we felt seeing the Capitol being overrun and people being hurt. We should think about the fact that we're complicit in doing that every day around the world, pretty much. And we also can think about, all the rage that was expressed. There are certainly people in that Trump base that are irredeemable. Like when Hillary Clinton called them deplorables, I think it was politically stupid, and the wrong thing to do. But I think there was some truth to it. There are people who are just irredeemable racists who, no matter what, will never be won back. But there are Obama voters who ended up voting for Trump. And that shows that this is not just about racism exclusively. This also is about desperation. And Trump was this figure who promised to drain the swamp and, take on the establishment, which of course was a con. But there were enough people who were so just hopeless and desperate that they were willing to put their chances on a con man. And I think that if we want to change that and really address that dynamic, then we have to think about it seriously and what gave rise to Trump, and not just dismiss everyone who is now acting um, out of that anguish as just as an irredeemable, even though there is a strong component of that. But of course, that won't happen, and Democrats will instead portray this as a massive coup and that Trump is the sole problem. But Trump is just a symptom. He rose out of a systemic dysfunction that will not go away even after he leaves. And by the way, I really welcome him leaving. That's a good thing. And I'm happy he lost. And Joe Biden winning, although I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, I thought was a welcome development. And Democrats having the Senate now is a welcome development, because especially now, there's actually no more excuses for them to not do real things that can address the desperation that helped give rise to Trump. So that's my main takeaway from yesterday.